myself and Demetrius, we're gonna work on our second set of these garden beds. The idea is that it's supposed to look like something like over here, where we started this project back in March. This is our first time gardening, so we're doing the best we can. And it's a nice, big, fun little project.
I went and bought the wood yesterday, and they're very easy to make because if you look down here, there's not a whole lot of cuts. It's like, here's a 2x4x8. We get a bunch of those. One 2x4x8. Here's another one. That's one side. Right here, you'll see the side of the garden bed. These pieces are cut in half, so these are just 4 foot pieces, two 4-foot pieces. So that's a 2x4x8 that was just cut in half. And then these pieces, these are all 21-inch pieces. So we cut a bunch of these. There's 10 21-inch pieces per garden bed, which makes the sides and the supports on each of the sides. Make sure you get green treated or pressure treated wood, which allows for it to be put outside without rotting.
So this green right here, you want it to have that look.
Something similar, or just look for wood that is okay for being outside. Because since they'll sit outside, you don't want them rotting with the rain and water damage.
Because you're gonna eat from that, y'all.
So now that we have all of our wood cut and laid out how we want it, with the better sides facing up, so that we know, or actually in this case we have the worst sides facing up, so they'll be on the inside. Now that we have all the wood cut and lined up, we can start drilling pocket holes and putting it together. So next we got to put the pieces together. I actually prefer using a pocket jig, which is one of these, but you can actually just screw the boards together, it doesn't matter. I just use the pocket holes because it looks a little nicer. So we're gonna put 2 screws here on the end, connecting it to the middle piece. We're gonna do the same on both sides. We'll put one in the middle. I've already marked off the point that's right here in the middle. And then we'll do 2 more holes on that side, screw it all together so we get a complete frame. Alright, so there are the pocket holes. So we're just gonna drill directly in with we're using 3.5-inch deck screws. Make sure you get deck screws so they can be outdoors without rusting or breaking. So yeah, we'll go 3.5-inch screws, goes directly into the middle boards. We'll do that on both sides, and then we'll complete the frame. You wanna make sure that when you're putting these boards together, they're aligned. I like to use one of these, like a right angle thing, to make sure your boards are properly aligned before you actually screw them in. So mine's a little bit off here, right there. And then I'm using an impact driver. You can use a drill, but it's actually easier if you get one of these, because they are great for driving things together, and makes your life so much easier. The first time I did this, I did it with a regular drill, and you had to put a lot of pressure on the wood. You had to try to hold it together. The impact driver alleviates all that. You just screw it in normally. And there's just so much more torque in the impact driver. So you don't have to worry about stripping the screws. You don't have to worry about having to press really hard. It does all the work for you. First one in. All right, there we go. It's the first corner done. Let's do the rest of them. All right, so we're getting ready to cut down the metal pieces so they fit. Even though the metal comes in an 8-foot sheet and it should fit on the frames without cutting, what I found was the last time I built these, it was a tad too long. And it made it difficult to combine the 2 pieces of the frame together because both sides of the metal were hitting each other. So this time we're gonna cut a couple inches off. You don't have to do that by any means. I'm just doing it because I learned my lesson the first time. So we have the 8-foot sheet here. I'm gonna cut a couple inches off. Mike has already marked the spot where we're gonna cut. And then the last time I did this, I used just metal snips. You can just use metal cheap metal snips. It's a little bit of a pain, but it gets the job done. This time I invested in a metal cutting circular saw blade right here. So it's my first time using this. I cut one already. It cuts pretty well, but you by no means have to get one of these. Like I said, you can just use a metal snips, but this or I think a Dremel blade will do the job. Whatever makes your life easiest that you can get your hands on. Cutting these two side pieces now. There's actually, what I realized is actually cutting them together is easier than cutting one at a time. So I've got two pieces of metal here. Both is going to be cutting this extra piece off here, and then I have a line down here where I'm going to cut it in half at the 44 and a half inch. I have some leeway because we trimmed the other piece. You might not have that leeway, so make sure you measure your side pieces first. Make sure it'll fit and then cut. Don't cut before. So one of the problems I just had that you probably saw while I was cutting was the plastic safety piece that keeps the blade from spinning or moving, like cutting your finger off essentially. It kept getting stuck on the metal. So that's one thing to just keep note of. You'll have to like move the safety plastic up so you can keep the blade spinning. The other thing was, so if your blade keeps getting stuck, you can just cut section by section. Go as far as the circular saw will let you go, and then cut that section off. Do like a cross cut that section off, and then keep going. So that's the other way around it.
While Demetrius finished up with the cutting, I used framing screws that were 7/16 of an inch in length to screw down the metal sheets to the wood frame. And by the way, the metal sheets are actually pieces of corrugated steel roofing that we bought from Home Depot. They come pre-cut at 8 feet long, and like we said earlier, we had to trim them down a bit. After the metal was attached, it was time to put the garden beds together. Demetrius decided to assemble them by himself, which you'll see he struggled a bit. So we recommend having another set of hands available to assist and assemble. Unfortunately, the camera ended up dying during his time lapse, so you won't see him actually putting the beds together, but here's what they look like once the project was finished. We used old wood, leaves, and lawn clippings to fill most of the beds up first, added some new topsoil, and then at the very top, we used the good garden soil. It's been a few months now, but here's what our garden beds look like. If you like this video, have questions, or want to see more DIY videos, let us know in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and share this video if you care. And we'll see you next time here on Adulting with Micah. Take care.